Hello, all you beautiful souls. It is so great to see everybody here. It's a really incredible privilege to be able to offer and give these workshops. And so today is going to be really great. I think you're going to learn a lot of really interesting stuff. Um, and I've really had a joy offering these workshops because they've been so empowering and energizing and educational for me. I've started offering deepening meditations to people. I've been channeling at will, channeling much more quickly. The things I'm sharing are also things that will open up for you as you tune in, as you keep doing the meditations. But speaking firsthand, when I channel this stuff, my ego, my mental mind isn't like right there. There's no agenda, there's no talking points. There's always an awareness of, really what would serve everybody best. Just turning on Instagram there real quick. So in general, when you have a certain energy come through you, it affects your whole system. Think if your blood pH is acidic and you eat something alkaline, your whole blood becomes more alkaline. If you are feeling neutral emotionally and you see something happy that you're open to, you're a bit more happy. Same with anger and a lot of other things. So every bit of energy we encounter affects us. Biologically, you could talk about pheromones and microbes and any scent from any flower, anything you could smell. The nose and hippocampus are very, very closely linked. And so smells have a huge effect in the memory. So energetically, likely if you're tuned in and you've seen other of my workshops or videos, but even if you're just a practitioner these days, you know what it's like to feel energy. You know what it's like to do energy work, ideally within your own body, to receive it and provide it. Maybe different levels of skill exist, of course they do, but imagine that an octave higher, right? Whatever energies I'm offering and transmitting to you, of course, you have those on the astral, energetic, 4D realm, as I talk about in Magic is Real, you have those effects. But in the 5D, causal, quantum, holographic, karmic, matrix level of reality, whatever your preferred model is, I like to switch between to help everyone be fluid and to remain fluid myself. When you receive something of a possibility, like the thing that's the most important thing to you, that just came in your mind, and the two visions that came, will it go really well or really poorly? You already know the answer. You already have the feeling within you. And that feeling is just the probability timeline, right? So 51% or higher is a yes, 49% or lower is a no. It's rare you're at 50, but often there's a small, small difference to kick it higher or lower. So if I'm offering possibility of astral projection, of rapid ascension, of a fluidity of consciousness where you can shift, and I'm about to demonstrate from ordinary mind, talking from the mental-ish to the higher, fuller, infinite level of soul that knows no bounds, has no restrictions, and can allow an infinite amount of data, knowing what's needed will arise in the right moment. And remembering how to come back here after, you shift back to ordinary mind. And doing that shift of consciousness is actually something new for me relatively quickly. All these workshops I'm providing often are an example for you of me walking the talk of caring about higher vibrations, but not just while meditating, while working, while serving, while interacting, while eyes open, moving around, lighting in my studio, which is always improving. Free admission to the next workshop for whoever sees the 3 improvements I made today, more always coming. Um, so when you consider, say, emotional fluidity, you know that if you're excited or happy or just really angry, and somebody close to you just spontaneously falls and hits their head and their head starts to bleed, your emotions are gone. You're like, all right, I need to call 911. I need to check on my friends, see what looks safe for me to do, etc. Right? You're just super present. And I use an extreme example because we can all visualize it. And, at any time, just you can clear the energy in the room if I use an example of something that affects you emotionally. Um, and oftentimes things that people in this type of role do affect people in the audience emotionally. I got 4 haters this week. I think they said some really nasty stuff. And I talked to a friend and like, this has happened before, but how is this relevant to astral projection, manifestation, the spiritual journey, other than having to, respond to people if they're rational or block them if they're not, like, crappy grammar or hate speech or just stuff like that. Well, I wouldn't block somebody for crappy grammar, but, somebody's just, you can tell. And he said, you got to learn to love the haterade. And I love that. And it's so interesting that we can forget where we came from. And I share this because where you're at now, tuning into this workshop, tuning into me, providing astral projection, manifestation, magic, higher reality, energy work stuff for you, you're at a certain point of development. You perceive me at a certain point, maybe just compared with one spectrum, maybe several, and vice versa, possibly, probably, if I got to know you really well. We all have gifts to offer and things to, services and purposes we're here for. And so when you see a higher vibration, you get a higher energy, when you get a certain frequency and it comes into you, it affects your whole being, right? So if your blood pH is very acidic, you might not want one shot of lemon juice, you might want two, or greens or pickle juice or whatever. So every workshop, when I say, do each meditation again and again, do each meditation 10 times, 50, 100 times, really take it in, really master it. It's to anchor it in your awareness, right? Say you have a positive trigger of every time you stub your toe, you laugh. And it reminds you to release pain, emotional or physical, in a healthy, positive way, and make you feel better, not worse, after you stub your toe or any other probably more significant type of thing that could cause a response in your nervous system that you otherwise wouldn't look for in most circumstances. So when you do each meditation, when you do each type of practice, including the one here today, and I'm going to shift again because I want to offer you the transmission through a demonstration of fluency of consciousness. So your own higher self, as is right for the situation, can come in. And so your ego, and our egos often block our higher selves because our egos are afraid of dying or not being in control or of surrendering control. So that shift looks again like this. And as I shifted, I am more and lower in my body. Instead of tapping into higher planes and higher frequencies and speaking more quickly as a result of just being there, I'm demoing how allowing in your soulful self can open up and relax your belly, can ground your energies. And then like last time with a champion workshop, but it's secretly part of the series too for bonus or extra credit, you are the light. You walk in the light. Right? You walk in divinity, you walk in your higher self, you walk in of and as that which you want to be in the world. And Anne just said she was hopping off to host a watch party. Thanks, Anne, for on Facebook Live, just helping spread this. And so as you shift, realize that I just shifted back to the mental, and now I'm slowly shifting back to soul. So when you have that fluency, when the ego can come online, and then the ego can go offline and back and forth, the parts of you that have resisted spiritual growth, maybe certain areas of spiritual growth, because deep down you were afraid of having to make a big change in your personal reality or your personality. Joe Dispenza links them. When you see how easy and quick it is to shift into soul, it interestingly becomes more ordinary, right? When soul can just be here anytime, as I'm moving a little heating pad on the ground, and it can stay embodied not just in a seated meditation or a walking meditation, but in everyday things. There's a book recommended in my Shaolin martial arts curriculum. Not to brag, okay, it was a martial arts school led by a teacher who trained at Shaolin, but it sounds really cool. And it's interesting, right? Like, there's no need for emotion here. There felt a need for humor and correction. A shift back to ordinary mind, or at least what appears to be ordinary mind, to relate with, meeting us where we're at. The teachers of spiritual concepts, which I prefer as a word to spiritual teacher, because that word has gotten so loaded, that phrase, you'll have your older bearded, calm, peaceful beings, and then you'll have your beings with no personality who will talk about the void. And then you have other people who are great teachers who talk kind of frankly, but in a grounded fashion, but might not go all the way up to say what comes in higher transmission mode. And I want to offer to you that when you get in those higher states, and not just when you get in them in receiving, say you're watching this not in a meditative, eyes closed, room perfectly prepared everything, but you're a bit more awake, say, more in alpha, than in the deeper theta. Now, if you really want to get a lot out of this workshop and any meditation, I would offer for you to find really good headphones. I wonder if I do have them here. These Bose headphones, I have the older model. The newer one has Alexa built in, which I have reservations about. But a good pair of headphones will properly play binaural beats. So if you play these and say on Spotify, you play binaural beats, and then out of your speakers as well, you have this workshop or any meditation or concept you want to absorb deeply, what's going to happen is it'll get deeper in your subconscious. Now, of course, you want that to be something you trust. So maybe that's the second or third watch, or a person or group you followed for a while and you feel you can trust allowing that more into your system. So even before we get ready for the meditation, I want to offer to you to prepare your body and your space, right? If you need some water, grab some water. And I'm shifting the agenda a bit to have your meditation prep be earlier, because it's nice to be still for longer before going into meditation. Now, in meditation, in this workshop, in any prep for astral projection, and any time you want to shift your awareness to what you define as a meditative state of mind. I believe it's a very vast moving continuum. If you see this beautiful tapestry by the Native American artist Nora Mendoza, say you start here on the continuum, and as you expand, you burst, and then you're in, infinity. And your individualism, can show in parts, but you can, blend and dance and don't have to be dominant, even though you're, everywhere. So your higher meditative awareness, the highest point for you might be right here on this painting. And you might have had a peak experience here, and you might have an idea there's something bigger after. But if this is your meditative level of awareness, or the highest level of awareness you've had, that's your highest reference point, right? When we have a mystical experience or a peak, we might go here, here, out here, right? And this happens a lot in altered states of consciousness through external means, is we'll be all over here. And if we are grounded or integrate well, we see the connection, and we know that as we practice, we can move up the ladder. And occasionally a great meditation, a great teacher, a very strong experience will take us, here, come somewhere in like the top, you could say 60% of reality, or, technically 99.999%, because the physical world and our references is just a bit. So as you're preparing your room, as you're preparing your body with anything you need to do regarding either, and you're beginning that familiar pattern of breathing slowly and deeply, I offer for you to consider the individual intention and the group intention for our practice here tonight. Now, the intention that you set could be similar to that of a previous workshop, but I would offer to you two categories of options. And this is true for any type of manifestation practice or exercise or routine. As you're about to meditate in your intention practice, law of attraction mode, you could have a different mode where you're laying down and just visioning in higher realms of reality like I teach. You could be creating sigils or doing a ritual depending on your training and lineage and all that. So if you have an intention of something you haven't done before, one likely possibility of that practice could be your permissioning the intention, right? So say being at a higher level of wealth and self-worth, or having a specific type of person or relationship show up in your life, if that's something you haven't taken a lot of energy towards or focused on or worked on, you might just be opening the door. That practice might turn into a self-healing practice. And if that's so, be prepared that that manifestation practice is one stage of many, right? So just to use the visuals that I have, I said again, I promise next time, a little bits of change, every workshop. So if you look at, there's a string of Christmas lights and it kind of moves like waves. Let's just say for simplicity, this 1, 2, 3 lights. We can go 4. Why don't we go number 4? So we have light 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? The ones above the tapestry. So you might be anywhere on this continuum, and this light represents your manifestation succeeding, right? The last bit of work. So if you're at a high level of awareness and a high level of skill, which means a fair amount of practice, a fair amount of training, knowing the right techniques that work for you, etc. To get from here to here might take you 25 minutes. Yeah, we're quantifying spirituality, as I've always promised, and as the upcoming book is on its way. So say this takes 10,000 units of magic, or 10,000 units of mana, just to be cute for a little bit. And this could be psi, attention, intention, chi. There's a lot of ways of measuring that overlap and that specify, but we'll just call it 10,000 units of, well, let's use Shen, actually. Shen's a word in the field. And let's not loop in fantasy too much. Although mana has been used, but I don't want to have a history lesson. So if you're great, if you're like an all-star, you can blast those 10,000 out like this. But, for most of us, opening the door so that Shen can go out, that spiritual life force energy can go out, we go bit by bit by bit. And some of it might actually be working through shadow. What if we include all these lights here under the tapestry? So every single practice you do takes you one light farther on your continuum, adds 100 more Shen, 1,300 more Shen. And if you have a model of reality, or choose to learn one, where you incorporate circumstances, as Lev Grossman offered through the Magician's series, really good series, by the way, I highly encourage you to watch it. You have these different circumstances, like the phase of the moon, or the circumstances in your own body, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. You have the amount of prana, of chi, of Shen that can come in at any time. So you have certain spells, manifestations, intentions that require, say to complete, say 20,000 units of Shen. Two people being at their best, casting for 2 hours, for 45 minutes, whatever. So practices like Tantra, practices like group intention circles, work to collectively build a lot of Shen. And so the goal of, say, ending a pandemic could be, say 15 million Shen over a 24-hour period, because, right? Just laws of magic. Let's just make it simple. So how do you get that much Shen? Well, if you have, 18 million people, they just send one and you got it. And if you're doing something, to a global mass audience, that might be a low bar, just 1 unit each. And if somebody's really strong and puts out 5,000, 10,000, it'll blast off. So the other choice of manifestations you can do, and I'll let that sink in actually. So power is an equation in manifestation. So on the low end, you're permissioning. On the high end, you're completing, right? I would offer for you to have something that you feel is at 85% or higher, unless you already know how to take it to 100 and you want more of a challenge. You want to have something that you don't have as much practice in, or you might feel you have some blocks in, because this will be an amplified manifestation field. So pick your level that might be a stretch, but that you could do it if you gave it your all within the held space container of this workshop, right? And this is very different. Like the live factor is all our shared energy and intention at once. Yes, it can carry through time and space, but there is a significance to the moment in 3D time when things are done. And the second is your depth and devotion into your manifestation. So if you have a busy day and then schedule, manifestation time, spellcasting time, 7:30 to 8, then, and you go right from like, checking your email to brushing your teeth to meditation, it's very different from being in a container where manifestation is held for 2 hours if you stay the whole time. And sure, the practice itself might be 30, 40, 50 minutes. And the before and the after, the prep and the integration is going to be more, right? A successful manifestation has thought electric and heart magnetic. And those pull things to you in the, you could say 3.5, 3.7D, right? They're kind of energy, but we can measure them physically. And if we call energy prana, but we know things are fluid, you get to a decimal scale. And not to get too mathy with you, but I want you to consider the components of power. So more power is faster, stronger manifestation. And this isn't to get obsessed about any of those topics. It's just to be practical. If you want to have enough food to eat for a week and you're a farmer, you measure how quickly your food grows, and maybe a certain fertilizer grows your food more quickly and you get more food over time. And just basic equations of physics, power I think equals work over time. If you lower the work, that changes the equation. If you lower or increase the time, that changes the equation. Same with power. So healthy power, grounded, loving power is, I feel, imperative. But if you feel any aversion to power, just clear those aversions from your system or put them in a box. We have a lot of abuse of power in our world, but we also have a lot of proper application of power. To take a relatively neutral example, say after World War II in the US, or maybe during, there were tunnels dug through mountains. These were done in 1850, right? Sure, there were a lot of what we would say now are unethical or unhumanitarian means, but the power total coordinated was enough to dig a tunnel through a mountain without like precise, with the technology we have in the modern day. And the power to lift or to curl a 30-pound barbell, you build that over time and then you just have it. But a factor to that is your energy, your blood oxygen level, your blood sugar level, your muscle density, your coordination, your muscle memory. There's so many factors into how well and how quickly you can curl at 35 pounds. And if you're just starting out, there's a lot of ways of amplifying power. And I love working with crystals and I love working with chi. I found that crystals often need more cleansing and charging. And I found a really cool gadget called a tachyon wand. And I'd offer for you just to shift your awareness into this and sense whatever you can sense. Stop moving it. And while you're sensing it, I'll still share that the tachyon particles that can move faster than light, Muggles just call these theoretical, which is okay for them, they can move so quickly into your field. And these wands, these tachyon wands, they balance chakras, they infuse your body and your space with chi. They're very healing, they're very powerful. People I know who don't work with energy often can feel their energy just by holding them. So hopefully by me offering it, and I'll direct a bit to you psychically through a digital connection here. So these are great. And I have a great relationship with a company that provides these, and I recommend them as general all-purpose tools. It's a metal rod with rubber around it and just a smooth fabric around that. It's like really smooth. It's kind of nice. And you can put these under your back. You can hold these. I was actually muscle tested to see where these should be on my body when I sleep. So why do I mention tachyon rods? And I have 2 sets of their mega wands for scale. Say these put out and offer 250 units of prana each over the course of an hour. And so this is 500 units of prana that boosts all the work that I'm doing. And together they're 1,000, right? I do personally need to have the capacity to channel, move, or direct that much prana, but holding these 4 takes whatever level I can get to up by 1,000, right? In our scale, because we need to have something, we need to measure it somehow, even if that measurement changes. So if the highest I can normally get to is 5,000, guess what? These take me to 6. So the really nice thing about manifestation work is it's any aspect of reality. It can be relationship, it can be health, it can be energy, it could be finance. And if you want to, purchase some amazing, but not too inexpensive, not too expensive magic wands, do an abundance manifestation and offer to yourself when that succeeds to allocate a fraction of it towards things that amplify your power. If you want to grow more food over time and you have a harvest and you sell some of that harvest and you reinvest part of the crops you yield to have better equipment, better seeds, bigger fields, that's the same thing with internal power and capacity. This is what education does. This is what eating healthy does. This is what breathing powerfully does. This is what attending this workshop does, whether you're here for free or you've very much, thank you, donated. So every time you invest in yourself, in something that can grow, it's a force multiplier. It's a power amplifier in that category. So I've invested quite a bit in manifestation tools, and now I don't have to do nearly as much abundance work as I used to. I'm serving at a bigger scale, I have a bigger capacity, I feel more at peace with how my life is, even though my lifestyle really hasn't changed significantly. I've put everything into service and serving you, just my mission here. But the key thing is when you have your intention, if you can quantify, just based on the 10,000 point scale, if you can just ask, how many units of Shen will it take out of 10,000, or on a scale of 1 to 10,000, how many will it take? And I want you to actually write that down if you can. Please don't be distracted by messages if you use your phone. And just the first intuitive answer that comes. You can break it down later. And now I want you to write down, and you can also just think of this or anchor it mentally, or send me a private message if you're on a Zoom call, if you have a ticket for that. And just what's the average amount of Shen you put out in a manifestation practice you're serious about? Not like, oh, it's time to read my affirmations. Okay, I feel good. No, like, I have 45 minutes. I'm going to get in a higher state. Here are my intentions. I'm going to do steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and be scientific. I'm going to be open and surrender and have the feminine allowing with the masculine directing, deciding energies. And I'm going to give everything I can to this manifestation. And then what is right for me to do after, I do in the last 15 minutes. And then I have an hour to 4 for integration, depending on how high a state I got into, what my capacity was for regrounding in a healthy way. And you plan that 5-hour container. So in that 5-hour container, in that proper manifestation practice for like serious work, what do you generate? And if that's unheard of to you, for me, that's like every other day, but if that's unheard of for you, then what is your practice? Is it 5 minutes? Is it 15? You know what your practice is. So say your total number of, Shen magic units for this manifestation, say it's 7,000 if you need a number, and say on average you put out, say 2, which means you need 4 practices to really manifest something, just as a template, right? Now I want you to ask yourself, your higher self, your guides, me psychically, if I'm conserving that way for you, and you'd hear my voice in your mind if that would serve you, you ask, what could I do to take my power level up by 1,000, by what I can achieve in an hour of practice? And all right, if you already thought tachyon rides, think of one more, because these are easy. But I encourage them, and if you'd like the info, just DM me. And so as you're seeing this calculation, you're demystifying mysticism, right? And let's just say the model that you put out, and substitute your numbers where appropriate, you put out 2,000 units every practice, and the goal was to get to 7,000. So in 4 practices, giving some room for error in case you have a slightly off day, you rock it, and the manifestation's due to come in the appropriate time frame. If you've now bumped that 2 to 3, because you got that extra 1,000, then you only need 3 practices. 3 times 3 is 9,000. And so you could fit in a minor manifestation if you boost your manifestation power, or the amount of Shen you can output per hour, by 1,000, right? And I really like having this scale because it really makes manifestation practical. The most discouraging thing in my manifestations is when they didn't happen. And I'm like, I'm this powerful magician teacher. I should just will bananas to fly and levitate cats and make them fart sprinkles. That takes time to build. And, there's a story I like to share of a house I manifested. So I don't want to repeat the whole thing here. I shared it in other videos. But where every day for like 3 months, like I want a 4-bedroom house, all to myself, close to college campus because I was graduating, close to Whole Foods, in a cul-de-sac with sidewalks, and like a forest or park near it, and cool neighbors, and a garage, and a big backyard for martial arts, right? Every day for 2.5 months, and then boom, I got a phone call. That exact thing was offered to me at less than half the amount it would have cost in the market. I think $650 instead of $1,400, and this is Michigan. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. There were other things that right away, 5 minutes, banishing rain from me within a 500-foot radius with my friend Zing. We share this too, and it's in an upcoming book. That took 5 minutes. What's more important? I think having a house is more important. Moving weather is is cute. If there's a monsoon and you need to save lives, then okay, that's different. So for the manifestation that you have, again, what would it take for today you to boost your numbers? And I'll leave these up to you. I don't want to prime you for today, but what could doing a live manifestation workshop do for your power levels? Where does it take them? Does it take them 10% or 100 units? Just take a second and tune in and write that down as well. Now that you have that, you're starting to get a sense of how to get your power to 7,000 or above. You just follow the recipe. What does this thing that I'm already doing, if I do it again, how will it boost me? Option number one, how will it boost me? Option number two, how will it boost me? And you keep doing that until you get a recipe of things that you do succinctly and consistently and sustainably, so that you can, do your manifestation thing. I do this because I'm like, my bed's right there. I'm like, lay down and blast off for a while. And in that one session, you can have that life tweak, that circumstances change, that change of individual or experience or phenomenon or physical world or your entire body or part of your body, whatever it is. So that's the cool thing about being a magician, is if you do it well and properly, in my opinion, you're a magical scientist. And that's really fun, because science is a replicatable art. Magic, as I say almost all the time, is just technology we don't understand yet. Or to quote Clark, I think exactly, sorry if it's not exact, any primitive civilization, a sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So if 95% of reality is dark matter and energy, please keep yourselves muted. If 95% of matter and energy is dark, like we can't see it or don't understand it, and similar for DNA, there's so much potential out there. Maybe, unlocking one DNA strand or gene, or having access to like 0.1% more of the universe, which is called that Shen, is what will kick you up 5,000 units per hour, right? How do we know? We don't know until we practice. Standard ways of practice, yeah, great. Have the car, have the house, have the free trip, have the partner, have the money, have the healing family relationships, the healed, stronger, changed body. But what if we all get a standard circumstance and set of circumstances and raise our power levels till we demonstrate our success? Now, I want to give you another concrete example. So I was trained with somebody named William Bankston, and I actually legally have to say this. Everything I'm about to share is my opinion and is not reteaching any of his stuff. He was very intense about that. But Bankston's an amazing guy. He has taken rats that have been injected with lethal doses of cancer, their bodies covered in tumors, at peer-reviewed Ivy League research settings. I heard him say, I think, Brown and Indiana University. Those are high level. Hey, thank you so much for the love. And he healed them of cancer, or their cancer disappeared with him holding them in his hands. However, the industries, needed to be said. And the cancer disappeared. And weirdly, the mice couldn't get cancer again. But over time, he actually got kicked out of one of the schools, not from politics, but because all the rats in the lab next door and next door to that were healed. He didn't touch them. He just created such a powerful field. His power amplified because he practiced consistently. And like any skilled person or expert, sometimes you always see how you can raise your skill and capacity and default level of performance higher. Like a dancer who trains more often is more likely to be more graceful in their every waking moment and movement. I should say, like a dancer in my own ideal sense. You might have a dancer that wants to be clumsy if they're not on the dance floor just for kicks. So Bankston, say it took 10,000 units to heal a mouse. He got to the point where he was blasting out 50,000 units, possibly, and that's what got through all the walls and healed all the other mice. And people thought he was, cheating somehow, even though, healing cancer in a day or a week or two is, I think it's a cheat worth learning if we can all learn it. So I want you to take the science part seriously. When I teach, when I share, when I stream, I don't just want the result to be, oh, hey, we had a workshop together, great. I want it to be, you have a path in life. I'm here to serve you, and you manifested me to help that path be more easy, more accessible, more successful, more filled with joy. And ideally, it'd be full of more community of, high-level spiritual practitioners. This is some golden age stuff. Like, where's our tribe of wizards, y'all? We are that. And whatever you might think about your abilities and your right to claim the word and what people might think of you and the things you feel you have to do and be, you're your own expression. You might work with plants by moonlight with nobody ever knowing, or you might do something similar to what I'm doing and be increasingly public and focus your life on this work, or any other type of thing. You might train doctors in understanding energy healing. You might train energy healers in understanding, business accounting so they can be successful in their life and practice. Excuse me, because often a lot of healers don't have the highest levels of, those of us who are really drawn to the spiritual path from our right brain often will be served well by strengthening our left brain. So shifting with excitement up to the knowing of soul, and now speaking to your inner adult, what is right for you to practice is what you're learning as a lifestyle. It isn't a workshop or a meditation or a couple rewatches or a plan for 10 rewatches and a doubt of whether that will actually happen or a certainty of it will. It's deciding that this type of magic, this type of practice is who you are, is part of your lifestyle. If you've heard that healthiness or fitness is a lifestyle, not just a diet, not just a program, sure, those things can shift you and accelerate a change, but a lifestyle reflects and creates and recreates and conditions and reconditions, mentally, physically, energetically, who and what you are. So if you care to be a more and more effective and powerful magician, wizard, witch, sorceress, sorcerer, shaman, druid, whatever word, just being, light worker, reawakening god, goddess, demigod, whatever. At some point, you won't need to grow, right? For most of us, our bodies don't need to grow after puberty. And most of us are okay with that. We might want a couple inches here or there, but most of us get at peace with our physical height. It doesn't have to stop, but there's a certain point where we don't really feel the need. You know your purpose, you know your path, you know what you came in and incarnated to achieve and to create and make happen. And because you know this, you have an idea of who you will need to be to walk that path, the manifestation that is you, the most important manifestation. If you saw Lucy, one of my favorite films of all time, there's a part where she changes the shapes of her hands when she's really, really high level ascension mode. And I feel that's like a demo. It's often said, heal yourself before you heal others. And while you could pick that apart in so many ways, if you have a block in your heart chakra and that affects your ability to empathize and receive and get and understand somebody from a heart standpoint, you would be serving them better if your heart chakra was more clear. But yet from how our world is, we learn from teaching, we see our level from teaching, we heal from teaching and serving and healing others. So being aware of all this, sometimes we need that type of a boost. Sometimes we're aware that, if I've been exercising for an hour, I might need more electrolytes if I want to boost my performance beyond my average. And so if you have a higher goal for your manifestation, if you're including collective consciousness, your communities, other people, a faster pace towards where you care to be in life than the pace at which you have been going, that requires more. For most athletes, a higher caloric intake is required than somebody who isn't athletic. Higher still for Olympians. I remember reading when Michael Phelps, I heard he needed 8,000 calories a day, the Olympic swimmer. And so, maybe he wasn't breatharian. That guy should have just learned to be breatharian. He wouldn't have to eat anything. And that's kind of a joke, but kind of true. And so for you, this might feel like a lot, but just compare yourself now to 10 years ago or 15 years ago, What would it take to double your power level? You know it. Ask yourself within, write it down. Maybe it's a lot. Can you do that? Are you willing to? How long will it take? What will it take to anchor so you don't have to think about it? Right? Those are all really important. And again, using the previous example, if you're 3,000 and you double, you're at 6,000, you still technically need 2 sessions before you get to 7. So you have to, go from, say 2 to 4 to 8 or 3 to 6 to 8. You need 3 shifts upward of doubling. 3, 6 to 9, sorry. And so I want to offer another way of just kind of having a shortcut to building capacity. There's some healthy shortcuts and there's some less healthy ones. But this is a product called Ultimatium. I learned it from an excellent teacher of mine, and it helps build, I was told it helps build your capacity, that it has different types of platinum group metals. And I've noticed as I've taken this, my ability to serve more goes up. And if you're curious vibrationally how things respond, I'm going to take a couple now, and just a thing I order online. And typical health disclaimers: run any health decisions by a health professional. This isn't health advice, etc. And just take some liquid and, it goes in your mouth. And in taking that, I feel my aura expand and my capacity to hold soul for longer, while not in a deeper meditation, increased. I felt a bit of an instant shift. So I'm going to have 2 more. And this is my 7th bottle. So when I posted a few years ago about the world needing a Tim Ferriss of spirituality, Tim Ferriss, who wrote The 4-Hour Workweek, The 4-Hour Body, he deconstructed things, experimented on himself, tracked the results, got the opinions of professionals, got help from professionals if he went too far, really learned a lot, learned the science, refined his approach, and then shared his findings. So like, we need that for the spiritual world. I don't see that. I'm going to step into that role. Whoever else wants to is welcome to. If somebody does it better, fabulous, right? But I'm going to step into the role of who's going to help us figure out how we can build our capacity so that we can hold 10,000 units of Shen in our system at one time. Because if we can't, it's like if you don't have the muscle to curl 80 pounds, you just don't have that capacity. You'll have to build that up, and other strengths besides muscle, but hopefully you get me here. So why am I saying all this? I'm saying this because I want you to succeed, but I also want you to be real. There's a lot of people who have, opened most of my newsletters, who have tuned into most of my workshops, or who just, I know, have a daily practice where they learn something every day, doesn't matter from who, they practice every day, no matter from who, and they constantly work on themselves, and they constantly level up, and they constantly focus on and feel their successes. And just like we could always probably refine and strengthen and purify our bodies a little bit more, I have a lot of friends who do that spiritually. I know I certainly do, or at least intend to, in all realms. And at some point, you're real with how quickly your body can change. Sure, magically you can amplify and shift, but again, on average. And I want to offer to you to up your game spiritually. And now, how is this done? How is this easy? How have I upped my manifestation game, my astral projection game, and not had to have a drastic lifestyle change, like becoming a shaved head celibate monk in a cave? And I found that for the types of meditations that I do, and I teach versions of those, the ones I do I've been doing for years, and I do teach those, but they're quite complex, so you're learning a lot of the components of them if you watch everything. Is kind of like doing a backflip. You need core strength and balance and different components before you do a whole backflip. And so the course on that is coming soon. It's called Intention Attention, and those are flipped depending on different circumstances with an infinity symbol in the middle. I'm really excited about that. And so just stay tuned on my page, on my newsletter, or messaging me for a heads up about that course. It's going to be, I think, the best course I've ever taught, or to be honest, could teach. And while I care to have every course be like that, this is going to be something I'm really focused on and very, very excited about. So as you level up as a magician, how do you make the time of day? And this was the first thing that I thought when I read Opening the Energy Gates of Your Body by B.K. Francis. Now, Bruce, B.K., B stands for Bruce. Bruce is a master Qigong Taoist teacher. One of my great teachers, who I think is older than Bruce, really looks up to him. And one of my great teachers I'm talking about is, I think, in his 60s. I think he's 65, 68. And, he's a practitioner in these ways, so he looks much younger, but still. He actually made his beard go from white to dark with certain Chinese herbs that I've been trying. And I noticed a few grays kind of going away too, and that's cool. So I didn't have to plan a few sessions and zap them with prana and de-age my chin. I'm just like, oh, I'll take a little supplement, save some time. And eventually we can do everything with consciousness. But back to you and your practice, if you do a deep meditation, you likely won't need sleep for that amount of time unless you're changing your system in a significant way. So again, going back to muscle, if you break down muscle to build more muscle, your body needs more resources. But if all you're doing is using what you have, and if you normally lift, if you can curl 12 pounds, no problem, curling 12 pounds a bunch of times, you probably won't need to sleep a bunch. But if you really curl like 15, 20, 25 until you can't lift at all, and you do that with all your muscle groups, and you break down your muscles and need all this protein and stuff to rebuild back up, you'll probably need more sleep. So sure, when you're building a skill, when you're deconstructing self, when you're healing, you may need more sleep for that. But when you build your skill to a sufficient level, then all you're getting is payback, right? When you lift those heavy weights, you exert energy, you get a payback in extra strength and things that happen to your muscle, depending on how you lift weights, tone or bulk. And you also invest sleep, but your muscles are significantly changed. With magical skills, it's similar. So when you get your rituals, your practices up to a certain level, doing them takes a lot less energy than it did when you were learning. And as I offer in every workshop, I want to offer a little possibility and a little challenge. Oh, hey, beautiful comments. Hey, Stephanie. A little challenge of rewatching the meditation of mine that you resonate with most. So this is the 6th meditation I've taught in about 2 weeks. And if you're subscribed to Wizard School on my website, and I'll give you the link for that, it's actually in the description for these. It's wizardschool.magicalgoldenage.com. And there I'm going to have all the meditations archived separately. And of course, at every event, you can, you place an order for the previous workshops. But just the meditations, I'm going to have them really convenient in Wizard School. But for now, you can bookmark each of these workshops and write down the timestamp of when the meditation occurs. And that's part of your prep. And just leave a comment on this post on this video each time you do the meditation. And you'll notice that if you do the meditation of a certain workshop, if you really like it, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12 times, you're probably going to have more results for the same amount of time, be more successful, feel better doing it. It'll take less energy from you. And I think it'll be very likely your sleep requirement for that day will change. Everything else, remaining kind of constant. You'd be like, wow, this works. This builds on itself. It's like if you're used to doing a certain sport, it's easier than the first couple times you did it. Same with meditation, neural wiring. All right, I feel like we're going to start the meditation in about 10, 15 minutes. This workshop, we're going to be very, very focused on the different components of power amplification and skill and manifestation specifically, and we're going to do them from the astral realm. So a little bit borrowed from Astral Projection Workshop 1 and integrating the light from the Champion Workshop, feeling the connectedness of everybody here in this collective container for Workshop 1 and Workshop 2, and a few other things that I'll teach fresh in a way that they'll be enriching for everyone new, but also still very effective if you've heard them before. So if you didn't before, if something new came up, please prepare your body and your room. And I'd like for you to possibly dim the lights a little bit. And as you're doing this prep work, I want you to consider, just really deciding on one manifestation topic. And if you've turned the volume up and you're walking around your room, or you're already in a position and your body's in a great state where things can just be as they are, I want for you to consider having a clear visual of what that manifestation looks like. And that clear visual has several components. It has a when, and for now we could just say time of day. That time of day has a temperature. You might want to start as we slowly shifting from the mind first and the body second, just to give you more fluency. We'll shift the body in a second. But visualizing with your eyes closed or open, but getting to closed, what you're wearing in this manifestation success, where you are related to it. Is it you in a picture frame, or is it you witnessing something? And I want you to shift, and I want you to see that the successful manifestation is kind of like a row of movies, kind of like an Instagram phone on the right-hand side of your vision. And that's the future. And as you scroll, you see images and videos on your Instagram spell. That'd be a fun word for this. And in the feed on the left is your old life. Any reference frame, 3D frame of, we could just say yesterday, as this is recorded, April 13, 2020, but just take yesterday as the old frame. And you can scroll up and down either one. And as you're scrolling up yesterday's frame, you're seeing, the things of life you want to shift away from. And you want to see the things in the frame on the right and the feed on the right that are what you want to experience. And you can see comments and descriptions in these Instagram spell feeds. And with them, you see the different details, the different components, the different descriptions of life in each of these areas. And now I want you to just to be aware of your abdomen and put one hand in the middle of your abdomen for your will, just one hand, with your thumb kind of touching your sternum. So if you want to look up real quick, my sternum is right here. There we go. And your hand is kind of open on your esophagus, a bit of your stomach, a bit on your liver, just so you can feel your whole chest as you breathe. And as you tune into your abdomen, while also being aware of both Instagram feeds with your eyes closed now, Insta spell feeds, just keep aware of your hand and your belly telling you the breath you're having. And I want you to listen to your body for the breath your body needs. And just go back and forth at your own pace between focusing on your breathing and seeing these feeds. We're going to focus exclusively on these feeds in just a minute. And now think about how valuable it would be to start moving the feed to the right into a stronger field of view, where there's a light shine on it, like a flashlight shined on it, and sunlight bouncing off, but really in all directions. And the light from the flashlight, which is you, your spirit, the sun, a huge amount of energy available to you, which we're going to look at in just a second. That light is now streaming onto the old phone and yesterday's world. Now I want you to see this from behind your body. I want you to see your body in the posture and position it's in as you're attending this workshop. And I want you to see in your astral sight the two phones in front of you. On your right, it's the Insta spell of your manifestation, images and videos and text describing it. And on your left, the old world, and similar things. As you look up and back and behind you, you see the brilliance of the sun, this interdimensional ball of plasma and light and love streaming down and supporting the manifestation with the sun's energies to your Insta spell, to your future reality, the intention of your attention. And that light spilling out into the old world, and you see it spilling out through the astral realm, filling the room that your body is sitting in, and shifting it and transmuting it and brightening it and raising its vibration, allowing the atoms to shift and allowing what electrons pop in and out of our visible universe. This changes 7 times a second at the quantum level. See those electrons popping in the right positions to influence the molecules and the atoms in such a way that reality and the air currents and the chi flow have these slight shifts, and just see time speeded up. And as time speeds up, you see a golden thread going from the phone on the left to the phone on the right. And astrally, you see your intention, you see your third eye sending out these waves to the sun, requesting support from universal bigger consciousness, down to these spell phones, down to the feed of your ideal manifested future on the right, and even blessing the old world on your left. And you see threads of more golden light being weaved between both phones. You see this connection of intention as your attention is so keenly focused. And now I want you to pick up one phone with your astral hand, because these are in the astral world, and see how the other phone is connected. You can kind of swing it. And now I want you to take up your left astral hand and hold the old phone, and you realize the right phone is pulling it upward higher. The right phone is so high vibey, it pulls the left phone with it, meaning your focus on your manifested reality will do the shifting for you to bring the reality that you've been living in to where you want to be. Now you could push, you could attach little rocket boosters or feathers or blow on the bottom of the lower phone as these two phones are going up into the air, kind of like a helium balloon tied to a stronger, bigger helium balloon with a fan under it. And as these balloons are rising, at some point, they'll go out into space. And they'll have the perspective to affect the whole world. Say these balloons are covered in mirrors. And as they leave the restrictions of this 3D reality, those two balloons of your intentions, those two phones, also get a more direct reflection of the sunlight, which bounces down to the whole Earth. And I want you to fly up through the roof of the wall if you're outside, above through the clouds, up through the atmosphere, above the world, and see in space that brilliant light of the sun, the light of your aura, your pulsing light of your third eye, sending out signals, directing, observing, attending, intending, like lasers. And you're seeing the rays of the sun bounce off both of these intentions that are mirrored, bouncing down to the earth and covering the earth in golden light. And now this light shifts the reality of the earth, transmutes the energy of the earth, raises the vibration and intention and field of all of the earth. And along with it, zeroing in tiny pinpricks, the positions of where electrons will appear shift as the probability field shifts of the planet as a whole, and the direction of the atoms and the molecules and the gross matter and the thoughts and electromagnetic energies and probability flows of thoughts and all manifested versions of you in higher dimensions that are other people, as you see in the third dimension. The shifts that need to happen for the elements of your manifestation to occur are already underway. You directed this light, you directed this energy. This energy has its own intelligence. The earth has a healthy distribution system of prana. It has not just a grid, but many grids. And as you are doing this work around the world, you look around the world and you see other beings, other light workers doing similar, weaving light, sending their intentions, keeping their attentions focused on this one cause. Seeing again the flashes of the world you wish to bring in, feeling the joy of this bright, amazing, happy, delicious, delightful energy, feeling the joy, the excitement, the knowing that you are building the success, you are exerting the prana, you are exerting the shine, you are in a group field of these other light workers calling in more light as well, and the container you're in is amplifying everyone. And you see that all these attentions, all these intentions are synchronous. They amplify each other. One does not take away from another, but they amplify. And you see other intentions, other images around other figures, some who are clear, some who are just balls of light. You see those as they grow and bloom and blossom. You see how they're right for you to share this consensus reality with as experience. Even if you're seeing other beings manifesting things that you would think from an ego level you would not choose, you see at this higher level of soul, of spirit, that you would choose for those experiences for your growth and benefit. And now as you see these manifestations and these weaving, and as you continuously look into the center of the sun and you see the flashing images of your ideal future bounce back from these mirrors to your sun in a two-way communication, I want you to fly through space towards the sun, around the rays of light. Faster and faster you fly towards the light, and the light ball grows bigger and bigger and bigger in your awareness. And it is what you are made of and from. And so it is only nourishing and more nourishing to you. And soon the sun is filling up almost your entire awareness, and soon you see yourself perfectly safely and strongly going into the sun at a faster pace and sliding down a beautiful tube of plasma the sun shaped for you into the center of the sun. And you see these different holograms popping into and out of reality, and some of these holograms are your life as it is, as an ideal, as a whole, but another set is you having the opportunity to receive a permanent or temporary upgrade to your entire being and awareness. And you can say to yourself strongly in your mind or out loud with your body, I allow myself to receive this upgrade until I revoke this permission. And now if you've chosen to say that, once you've said that, you see the holograms shifting, and you see it in the light of this internal control room, this internal portal at the center of the sun, you and your body in your familiar form being reflected by the sun, and the sun being reflected back at you. You see the sun as part of you and you as part of the sun, and you now shift upwards from this direct reality, but not upwards in a 3-dimension, up and out, viewing this reality from a higher level of cause. And in this higher level of cause, you know yourself as a witness. You know yourself seeing the timelines that you can just see clear as day, dating back centuries, dating back millennia, going up and down. You know, going back and forth, you see different types of lives. You see human, animal, plant, god, goddess, rock, plant, planet, angel, demon on the shadow side, all of these lives. You see all of the ways you can choose to go through the veils and experience life at the energetic and physical lower dimensions. And now we go higher still, up a dimension of archangel, above the causal, where as archangel, you can shift and float into any one of these dimensions, any one of these worlds, different versions of Earth, different versions of the same tree in all this multiverse. And you can see where you are to serve. And you wonder where to serve, so you look up as well, not in the 3rd dimension, but in a higher dimension, and you see great beings of divine personification that are directing, that if you ever have a question in how to help or support or serve or what to do or how to be, you look and you ask, and you see as you ask that your essence is blurred with theirs, and you see the illusion of this veil between the 6th and 7th dimension, and you see how you too are one of those great beings of divine persona. And you know the qualities you hold in a body as a divine being. And you see this army, this legion, this team, this community, this group of archangels that are the extensions of you to work with and through, not exclusively, but one way you can work through affecting reality as a whole. And sure, you might see other things, other elements, other characteristics of reality from this perspective, but what matters now is you see and feel yourself as divinity. If you wish for a world to be or not be, that is but simple. And you can but look and you see the 3 and 4D of that other original self and that self's intention to shift into this new world on this iPhone on the right side showing these images of this ideal future. And as you consider that and your benevolence, you extend a finger and you just lightly touch that phone. You just lightly give it a spark of your divinity from your divine heritage. And you see with that spark, a huge amount of light, more vast than the sun, flares around the key image of that manifestation and fills it with energy of creating worlds. And you see the probability meter of the manifestation occurring and succeeding within 5 days go up to 100%. And you see the electronics of this meter struggling for it to go to 101 or 102, 103, 4, 5 because of the certainty. And you know you have this power. But you also see the fifth dimensional strands of karma. You also see the cause and effect of every possible outcome of this manifestation. You see the evolution of the soul that you feel you may return to through the veils for your own growth and experience and your own choices and your reasons that are vast, but you know that are right. And this timeline that you see is either the same or different from the three-dimensional origin of this awareness in this practice. And you choose the best thread for the manifestation to go to, the best success or shift or lack of either for the purpose of your own evolution. And it causes you the most joy to know you are prioritizing your evolution and ascension above all else, because that, while giving you more options, will take you to the completion to be one with oneness. And as you consider this, you feel your brothers and sisters and other divinities of other beings and natures beyond gender. And you see all these beings to your left and to your right and up and down and forward that have the same and similar cosmic power. You see how you're netted, you're connected, you're woven together in this field of divinity. And you see how in this massive field, you are one bright, towering figure with many, all connected, all part of this same fabric. And now you go up one higher dimension still, not 3D, but shifting, and you see this fabric of divinities being woven. And there is a weaver weaving all these personas with all these names. Lakshmi, Krishna, Thoth, Aphrodite, Apollo, Artemis, Aphrodite, Diana, Dianus, Zeus, all of them. They're pearls on a tapestry that you are weaving. And you are weaving this tapestry. And the color and the shape of this tapestry shapes creation. And what is right to shape is what you choose to shape. What divinities exist or are pulled out of the thread. How this fabric highlights certain worlds and timelines and certain instances. And how other instances, other things that you choose to not create or you choose to uncreate, you can simply pluck from the fabric and put into the scrap bin, and they are no longer part of the fabric of this reality. And you look at your work and you're happy with it. And as you see that you're happy with it, you see that the work is pure white and your hands are pure white. And as you look closely, you notice that there's a blur between the fabric and your hands. And you realize that the hands and your fabric are part of one. They are actually one. And now you look around and you see the scrap bin and the floor and the chair you're on and the surface you're working on are all white and connected as well. And you wonder, what is this? Where are you? What's higher? And you look around and you see that anything you could see, any detail of furniture or plant or setting, is also pure white. And it's your mind creating the conception of form. And as you choose to relax that conception of form just a bit, the outlines blur. And you as awareness see this vast whiteness, perhaps with features continuously melting away until you're this vast whiteness, maybe with fingers, maybe with other features, but you're this vast whiteness, and you are all that is. The universe you think of, the concept you think of is inside you, is in your vast allness of your body. Any concept or form you can think of before you, behind you, in time, in space, in conception, is you. And you realize, just as you would reflect what you thought was your little finger, you see an aspect of reality that you choose to change in the fabric, and you just know there's this new sensation like moving a muscle that you can do, and you know how to shift this reality by shifting your being and shifting this part of you, and just you allow yourself to will that muscle of reality altering to be online as you know what to do with your body of your universe that is your extension, and you shift, and it is so. And now you allow yourself to have the lines come back and the objects come back and the tapestry to look as a tapestry, still white, still glowing, still connected. And you see how that feature changed, not with you plucking fabric, but in a much simpler way. And now you consider the fun of affecting reality in this higher way as a fully interdimensional cosmic all of all being. And you let the outlines fade until your vast whiteness fills almost all of your vision, if not all of your vision. And there is no separation and there is no distinction. And any event, any image is a habit of mind. And so now with one nothingness of pure whiteness, or everythingness, of millions of small screens showing millions of images representing reality. You choose to allow every screen to disappear but one. You choose to allow some separation, some distinction between the everything that is you and the other that is this image. And you see that focusing on this image is a meditative exercise in returning to duality. And you know you are in duality, for in full non-duality, there is no even need for a word, because a word itself is a separate individual concept from the all. But you see in the visual representation of duality, one screen with one image and everything else white. And you know how you got here. You got here through that portal, and you can go through that portal again. And as I go through that portal, I know that I'm not separating myself from everything, because I am within everything. And if I wish to go for a run, I need for there to be a street. If I wish to have love with another person, I need for there to be another person. If I am to experience the variety of flavors that of reality of the 3D, 4D, 5D, 6, 7D world, I need to allow that shift in my being and that shift of expression. And I consider, why not shift a world where everyone has wings? But I know for some reason that's not right for me to shift, at least not in this moment. And I wonder why, and I see volumes and volumes of books on magic. And I see that knowledge that I hid from myself because I didn't choose that experience for this life, but I did choose some. So you look over to this library and pluck one book of sacred magic of reality creation that are all the tools I know I can learn and apply in this life. And this book, as I look into it and I see its interdimensional symbols and cryptographs and messages and meanings and all of the content, that is highly condensed, and that these condensations are holographic representations of people, places, things, experiences, 300-page books of text, videos, all of this education. This is a book of the cosmic library that will appear through the decades and centuries of my choice to live in separation, in duality, in some form. But I know as I look even at the book and all of my surroundings and body, I see the blurred lines and the connectedness with infinite oneness, and I allow it to come back, and I am one with all. But I feel in my chest a will to come back, a will to experience. And so I allow that dimensional portal to exist. I allow that opening and that oneness to appear, and like slivers of a cake being peeled back, I look through and I see the purple of the galaxies of space. And allow myself to float and shift into the purple galaxies of space, where the higher dimensions above 4D fall behind me. And I see in the 5D the probabilities I can affect, and I know the choices and the actions have been made, so there's no need to be here in this abstract level of reality. And I shift down into 4D, feeling slightly cut off, but also knowing and connecting and shifting and seeing the lines blurring, not just for dimensions, but for existence and awareness. And in this, I have peace. Of my oneness is always accessible. And with as much attention as I am able to offer and maintain, I see an energy body in the shape of a human body. And I see human anatomy in the shape of human anatomy of the three-dimensional form that I've chosen. And in this, I might look from different vantage points, from a perspective of being the witness of this body. And I might notice something that I choose to change, that I choose to intend to manifest a shift in. And from this 4.5D witness perspective, I remember oneness. And I see that shift in my body existing in the simultaneous holographic reality of all realities, of the body, of the all that is I am, that I am. And you choose to pluck part of the tapestry and to shift part of the tapestry, and you shift down, and now you see the shift of the energy body is done in seconds. At the power level of claiming and being of and with and all the one and isness of I am, that I am, to the extent that I have as I have. And I have this body, energy and flesh. And this is my body, and I can choose to change it or not. But I see it, I see my body, and I allow myself to go into my body to see and know myself as an individual, even though I know this higher perspective of non-duality, even slightly higher, is nourishing and lovely. I know I am meant to walk in the third dimension. And so I allow my awareness to shift back inside to this energy body and my own individual self, aware of higher realities in the space where I meditated. And I am receiving this workshop from David. And as he has offered what he has offered to me, I see simultaneously on the same planes that he and I are part of the oneness that is I am that I am. And I look around and I see the other meditators and the other teachers, and they are part of that great fabric too. And I see that to tune into a specific of a certain being is simply a matter of process. And I see the sovereignty in other beings because I see at this level of awareness, the sovereignty of free will is a simple result of individuation into this level of duality. And I am happy and grateful to honor that, and happy and grateful to approach conversations to understand my sovereignty more. And now I see from this perspective and from 5D, the different shifts in this world I have been in, the different shifts of living and health and money and bodies and environment and existence. And I see these elements. And in seeing these elements, I know how to change them. I know how to change them energetically by having Shen move through me. I know how to change them holographically by shifting the fields. I know how to change them as a being in and with and of the sun, and in and with and of the light, with its massive power, amplification, nature of creation. I know as an archangel, as a divinity, as the weaver of creation and of creation itself, I am that I am. Change is simple. And as I see this mind and this ego, my mind and my ego that I've chosen through the veils to experience, I see the threads of cause up into the causal plane. I see the threads of karma, how my entire journey up to this point, all of my stories and my present self is perfect in its path up to continuously re-embody divinity and materialize in worlds and weaving the fabric of creation for an infinity of timelines. And I see that the now I am in is perfect. And I am at peace with this now. And I look forward to experiencing the change that I've evoked that validates and supports my ability to move a part of my body that is this world. And slowly take a breath. And taking another deep breath and moving your fingers next to each other. Appreciating this body, but maintaining your connection with and of and as the all I am that I am. And now lightly wiggling your fingers, maybe opening and closing your hands slowly, seeing streams of light of your hands and fingers going into and through all things with your eyes closed, imagining looking around the space you're in and seeing the whiteness of all of it, and considering the blurring of the lines of the oneness of the all that is you, that is you, that is I am that I am, and the oneness of you with the objects of your surroundings. And as you're holding this view of this oneness, slowly open your eyes and look at two simple things next to each other and see their oneness in the perspective of all. See two things. If you're looking at a screen, see two things of that screen and see them both as the same at their highest nature, of your device, of he who is speaking to you. See the connection, see the oneness, see the all that is all, the I am that I am, the reflections of you in this reality. And as liberating as that is, you know you will remember it. And you can repeat what is offered if you choose in your mind or with your voice. I am that I am. What I am is good. All of the I am that I see in this reality is me. And all of it is perfect. And a shift to lower dimensional thinking can be a disconnect from this state of awareness. And so returning to this state of awareness returns the joy and peace of this more enlightened perspective. And in saying and claiming that word, and choosing to not receive the karmic threads that drag that word into dark places, being full of light, being one and of and as the light, being the creator and the weaver of the web and the web itself. I am that I am. What I am is good. Let's rub our hands together a little bit as we begin to shift back even more to the 3D. And if you would ever like held space to be in this higher state for a very long period of time, the best way to do that is in a planned container. I could keep that going for 3 hours, but I offered a 2-hour container, not a 5 for this. So if you would like with me, one-on-one tuned into you or in a group, to be at these higher states, to have these higher states persist, to become programmed in to you, to feel these effortlessly, astrally, manifestationally with your being of the I am that I am. And consider the possibility of returning to that bliss. And now from this level of bliss, there's many places we can go. And only if you have a confusion, we'll have general questions later, but if you have a confusion, please type that confusion in. I'm going to answer on Zoom first for those who have tickets, and then I'll answer the Facebook Lives with the time that's available, but I'll do my best to get to everybody. And we are the heroes we are waiting for. Thank you very much, Anne. Now, if you consider what it's like to be in and of and with the all, if you feel able to be the all and to know the all, I want for you to experience yourself as remembering the effortlessness of manifestation as the weaver of that web. Because the offering of power levels to 0 to 10,000 is a 3 and 4D concept. And just as you'll need to eat until you be breatharian, you will need to use this concept until you're constantly coming from 8 and 9D, where 100 million prana points is a simple dot of paint on the tapestry. And just like that, you touch. Or like the divinity, whatever visual is stronger for you. And it's really an honor to serve in this way, because as I said before, these lift me up. This is a meditation for me as well, and I'm grateful for it, because it feels like I'm meditating and not teaching. It doesn't feel like work, it feels nourishing. And when you attend these live trainings, when you rewatch these recorded, you have the specific guiding to do things in a specific way. And I've invested everything in over 20 years in this life in learning how to make these shifts and teach these shifts effectively with the appropriate amount of science and a sustainable shift up in awareness with practical skills that are valuable in such a way for the ego to want to play along, for the ego to accept, oh, well, what if the karmic thread of an intended manifestation is not the ideal karmic thread, to not get disappointed. If there's a loss of limb or a loss of witness, loss of life, to be able to shift up and see that's part of the tapestry of infinity, of infinite lives, as opposed to reactive patterns for these generally extreme circumstances. And what I found as I shifted up, that the more I committed, the more it happened, but also the more I saw the practical value, the more it was likely to happen. So as you consider this event, as you consider this work, I want you to consider what will make you practice, what will make it be a lifestyle, what will take it from a should to a must. When will this be a must? When will you, having the ability to at will heal yourself or another completely in under 24 hours of anything? What will it take for you to have all the elements of your dream life, even the ones you thought maybe not, but all the elements of your dream life, all of them, within 1 year, compared to how many years you've had them on your vision board? And if you make something a must, then it will happen, right? We know when we must drink water versus when we'd like to. And so I want to offer you a way to have a must. And if deep down you know your must, then I honor that in you. But I want to offer you something I haven't offered anybody ever before. And I'm offering this because I see the practicality in it, but I want to offer a slight warning that this topic I'm going to bring up may be very healing or cleansing or triggering for some. It may be very empowering for others. And when you consider what motivates you, what you feel good with, what you feel is acceptable in terms of what makes you commit to a must, I want you to really consider what will have something so anchored in your spiritual practice, what will have something so completely a part of who you are that it's unthinkable to not have it, to not be it. Now, for food, for shelter, we know what this is, but for spiritual practice, it's such a wild card. When I was in the hospital because I was having physical heart problems, and when I was told I had borderline liver failure and might die if I didn't change some things, it became a must for me to correct certain patterns of my life. So I invested in myself in all those areas, but I also had a change within of how I wanted to live and who I wanted to be. And it took me time to find what was right for you. So what I'm about to share might be right for you or it might not, but I want to offer you a template of commitment. So again, what I'm about to share, I haven't shared in this way before because I wanted it to come from the right place. And I feel that now it is. So if you have a known must, follow that must. But if you realize you will have a shift to higher awareness, you will have an amplification of all your manifestations in all your categories. You will have a reduction in pain, an accelerated path of healing, a more powerful shift to accelerate the development of your being and ability as a reality creator, then I have a way to offer you support every week. And that way is something that is a very specific container of 12 people, so we can get to know each other deeply, so we can support each other's intentions, and so we can have a more personal relationship. Where on the Zoom, everybody will have video and sound. There'll be teaching, there'll be meditation, there'll be transmission, but it will really be designed specifically to have a space of people who are growing and shifting together. And that is a program that is a 12-month program on my Patreon page. And that is mentioned at a tier that is about $999, which goes to $250 a week for 3 hours of support. And if you see my personal page, a big clearing and upgrade is $333. So it's a kind of a double value with a consistent container that, to be honest, grows the value in the amount you feel of power amplification, another 400%, another 2000%. I don't want to seem too funky with that. And the purpose of offering you this specific container is a purpose of having you have a commitment that will keep your practice at a level where you want to get your value out of it. And I want you to get your value too, because I want to keep the container as it is and keep the 12 people who say, yes, I want to be in this, to be the 12 for as long as we can do it for 5 months, 7, 12. We'll talk about that in our first meeting. Now, again, this might be triggering for you. You might be like, oh, why is he pitching me on something? He's giving me this free, the spiritual stuff. Well, spiritual practitioners need to eat, need to live, need to train, need to travel, need to build temples. And there is a component of energy exchange which supports me, but psychologically, the value for you is, are you willing to take the steps needed to gather and direct the resources, wherever they are or could be from, to have this commitment to yourself to level up in such a way where you have a container and every week you have an eye on you and a support with and for you. And again, as I said earlier, it might be something completely different. I have no attachment to your choice, but I wanted to offer you a vessel, which is honestly a huge commitment for me as well. I am giving up a part of my week every week, not just scheduling meditations whenever it feels right or good, but I am reserving that for you and for this container. And while many people reach out for me for one-on-one support for healing and training, the people in this container, it's called a magical mastermind, the people in this container will have kind of first priority for scheduling, because I know they're really committed to going deep, not just when they feel like it or when it's convenient. You know, like, you don't exercise at those times, you exercise ideally regularly and routinely. So if that's something you can do that's possible for you, I offer that for you. If you would like more info, or you'd like a phone call about it, or you'd like the link, just send me a DM on Facebook. And I have also Wizard School, which has a lot of pre-recorded videos, but even with Wizard School, it's not the same as an intimate live container. And I have links to all my stuff all over the place, but I haven't shared Patreon a lot because, again, this is something I wanted to feel that the world was ready for and that I was ready for to serve at, because I care very much to serve at very high integrity. So, okay, that being said, I want to shift to the Q&A, and I want to answer any questions people have about anything I brought up or the content. So please type it in now in Zoom or Facebook, and until I see some questions, I'm just going to give some general pointers of a path of raising awareness to be an expert level manifester that take time. And of course, these would be covered in the mastermind, but if for some reason you feel that that's not right for you, here's just a light map. So one of the key components of successful manifestation, or being able to feel safe astrally projecting and encountering or visiting with any type of topic, involves the health of your system. So again, if you want to lift weights, if you have poor circulation, that will hamper your weightlifting. If you want to have a manifestation that shows up in the material world, your root chakra needs to be great. If the manifestation is with relationships, so you're astral projecting to hang out in the astral world with another person, your second chakra and theirs have to be great. Your hearts have to be great. And so going through every single chakra and keeping it strong and clear, on one hand, that's a routine to develop, a routine of practices. On the other, it is like an onion. I received 4 healing sessions today from a master healer and professional that I see out here in California. And the topics we worked on were related to certain life themes and organs and meridians and chakras that we've worked on before, but they were deeper topics that hadn't come up in the past because those scenarios didn't come up in life. You know, can you imagine all the healing the typical human being needs to do, and telling them, do all this healing in 1 hour and you can never heal again? Like, that'd be, who could survive that, right? Psychologically. And so as you seek to do a higher level, you know, I'm serving at a higher level now with more workshops, with more higher awareness practices than I was before. So that's why I went from 2 healing sessions at a time to receiving 4 at a time. Like I went there, 4 healing sessions, and 2 hours later, I'm offering to you. I integrate quickly now because I've done so much work. I used to get an hour of a session and be like needing 4 days to integrate. Now, it's capacity. So I'm definitely getting more ultimadium. I ordered 4. I'll probably order more in a couple of weeks when I've gone through those. So what else to share? If you ever, to elucidate on this more, because this one core topic could be so deep for your manifestations, I'd like to offer to you to think of a manifestation that failed. Maybe because you didn't put enough effort into it. Maybe because as you were considering this manifestation, something in life came up that was a theme that had come up before, and you felt like, right? Or you got triggered, or you're just like, I don't want to do this, or this isn't right for me, or whatever. But you could tell it was a reaction. And maybe you've done some healing around that type of phenomenon and processed any types of trauma or things that had to be processed, whatever you would call them. And then the manifestations could succeed. That's happened to me all the time. As I was on a journey to teach spiritual concepts like this and be well qualified, at first I was 13 in bookstores. And when people were talking about fire and brimstone and damnation and fear, I was, talking about this stuff and Reiki and synchronicity. And a lot of times conversation shifted. But anytime an adult topic came up, or anytime topics came up related to certain experiences I was having as I was growing up, I shifted into like reactive kid mode of being a typical 13-year-old. And I didn't have the capacity to keep going and studying and serving in that way. And I had to go to school. That was a requirement. That was a loss of freedom or being trapped theme that I had to clear from my system. I have a friend who left school at 14 to travel the world and self-educate, and he got the legal and parental permission to do it from where he grew up. And he's a phenomenal human being, and he's made a great education for himself, and he's very smart, and he's a great writer, and he's very good at math and business. A lot of the things we think school is necessary for, and he's a successful entrepreneur. So he took his education into his own hands, but he committed to himself. He's like, if I don't do these things, I got to go back to school. But until I was in my 20s, I didn't understand the value of strengthening my body in a performance way. Sure, when I was like an early teenager, I weightlifted to look sexy or look good, and I thought about fashion more than I had earlier in life. But it wasn't until martial arts and Zen that I had realized I care for my body to be strong, so my energy and my will is strong. And that will allowed me to take on bigger, more complex things in the businesses that I started, in the deeper spiritual studies that I had undertaken, in the martial arts training that I had undergone. And we do have a question from Tom, which I'll respond to, Tom, in just a minute and a half, give or take. But it wasn't until about 4 or 5 years ago, I'm 35 as I share this, it wasn't until a few years ago where I actually saw somebody who taught spiritual concepts for a living and had a school and supported herself through that school so she could do it full time and constantly learn and level up, that I realized it was feasible to do more and more. And then in my early days, as I was offering things, I alluded to earlier, I got some haters on Facebook, and I shut down. I got so angry. I couldn't log into Facebook at all. And I called the mentor, and he said, yeah, he was famous for a couple years, and getting a few haters means you might have like 0.0001% of fame, however you define fame, but people giving you strong opinions about yourself and who you are and what you do. And so he gave me advice on how to process that and be okay with that. And now I had those people come up today with what they said. And same day, I'm offering a workshop after I received 4 back-to-back healing sessions. and I feel great, right? So I still needed to process that energy today, but not nearly as much as before. And the value of it coming up today was the going deeper, because people who show up live, it's been about 30 to 60, and people who view the workshops I offer after have been between 200 and 1,000. There's big variety for a lot of reasons, but I feel like as those numbers go up, more of the good will come in and more of the less good will come in. And so the strategy I developed for myself, and I'm offering this to you, this story as a template. If you think the hero's journey, you go into you fight the dragon, which is the hater, you go into the darkness, which is you feel like crap, and then, you take your mentor's advice or strength or other meeting, and you're like, oh, this is how I get out of the dungeon and kill the dragon. And then, you see the glory of everything, and then you come back to the world as a fool or as a magician again with your offerings. And so I watched that stage of other people. I watched a celebrities read me tweets video, and it was really funny. And that laughter was the final shift. And so now I'm offering this to you in prep for, as you shift, as you counter resistance in whatever form. Oh, now you have a template. What did David do? Oh, how do I do that with my own scenario? Great. And just to link it together, because as this succeeds, this will help me continue offering what I offer. For anybody who joins the mastermind or their friends, I might change the name, but for now, the Magical Mastermind and their friends, there's going to be such a held space where as stuff comes up, and so as we level up to non-duality, as we level up to from 2000 to 3000 to 5, 6, 9, 10, 12, 50, whatever, we're going to have these resistances that we need to move through. And instead of having to schedule a $300 healing session and work with somebody for an hour and a half and wait for their availability, one person can bring that up, and because it's a connected field, somebody else is like, oh my gosh, I had that too. And I think 25% equivalent of the rate, or 50%, I'll have to do the math, that the mastermind comes out to, I think it's something like 25, like 30 or so. Everybody heals at once who had that scenario. I found this in the schools I attended and the workshops I attended. I would go to a Bashar workshop and somebody would ask a question that I wanted to ask, almost in the same wording. And I'm like, oh, they're getting a lot of value. I'm getting a lot too. This is awesome. And I even had a friend who had the permission to ask a question, gift his permission to me. And I asked a question he's like, oh, ask whatever you want. Don't, you're here for your own reason. And the question I asked was the one he wanted to ask. Like, this is cool, right? So that's the magical part of it. All right, so Tom's question, and we have about 15 minutes left honoring our containers. So please, if there's anything you want to learn that you think the group would like, please post it. And if you want to DM me about anything, you can always DM me anytime. So Tom asked, looks like I can read this out loud. Love the guided meditation, definitely felt like I was taken on a spiritual journey within. How does tachyon work, and what else could I do to increase the power of my connection to source? Ooh, love this. I'm going to answer the source question second, because I can say a lot more about it. How tachyon works. So my friend Olivia is the founder of this company that provides these tachyon ones. And she can explain how it works much better than I can. I don't sell these directly. I know the people who do. And I was given like a little coupon code to give with people, so you save like $10. Maybe it's more during the quarantine, but last I checked, it was like $10, which, it's always nice. For me though, from an energetic standpoint, I feel a constant pulling in of energy from source, other dimensions, dark matter, and I just put it near wherever, and it's just so nourishing. I can just feel it. And it works passively and continuously. And I see a funnel, right? So if you think of a crystal as a battery, I want to have a crystal ball, but I don't have one right here. So this crystal, think of it as a battery. I had it in the sun on the grass for a couple of days. So it's full with energy. This is jasper. Red isn't showing up great. Next couple improvements are lighting. It's actually really dark red. So as this is charged, it gives off the energy of jasper, the grounding energy and root chakra energy and its other qualities. And at some point, it'll either give out all its energy, or it'll connect and transmit to other portals of jasper energy and give those to you, and it might need to be recharged again. And that's not true for every crystal. I have a very big citrine sphere, which I'm looking at. You actually hold, because I'm going to show you the difference in scale. I'll be right back. Oh, all right. This beauty, just compare the scale, right? Sometimes size matters, sometimes it doesn't. If this were materialized by Babaji, it'd be different, right? Of course, maybe it was. So just looking at the scale here and just moving this around, kind of like a revolving moon. So this crystal can actually recharge this crystal, and this crystal might source so much energy it doesn't need to be put in the sun. So if you think about yourself, you have a certain amount of will to live. And there may have been moments where you had less will to live and you needed support. And maybe you've never been in that dark night point, but maybe you felt like really sad and unmotivated and you just needed something outside of yourself, like these being put in the sun. And I think by and large, crystals can kind of work the same way. And you also know you're always connected to source. And if you just shift your consciousness, even if you feel super depressed, and allow source into you, which perfect two questions to go together, you're like, oh, I'm great, right? So the expansion of consciousness of bigger crystals, they're definitely more self-sustaining. And so the tachyon rods, because these are synthetic, they're self-sustaining by nature, and their output's higher by nature. So the consciousness of a crystal, I actually really like holding that. The consciousness of a crystal may have certain personalities and qualities and traits, and the tachyon does not. So we've got our cup and our wand. So there you go. It's a little switch, but this is cool. And so the value of this is you can use its energy for anything. The value of this is you can use its energy for most things. And with more work, anything. And this is making the camera go a little wonky, so I'm going to put it down, or just hold it down here, my crystal baby. Hello, I love you. So just heard I love you too. Thank you, Crystal. Some weirdo haters like, this dude's crazy. I'm like, thanks, see ya. Or see you when you come to the crazy side. So if and when you get some tachyon rods, I think what you'll notice is they're easier to use because they're always on, they're doing their own thing, and you never have to maintain them in any way. But if you want a specialized type of energy, you need to take a little bit of work to direct it, whereas crystals kind of do their own thing, or have their own quality. So that's all it feels right to say about tachyon wands right now. If you have issues with your stomach or your legs, the vertebrae that have the nerves that govern those legs, you can put your tachyon rods there. If you want, to boost your root, you can just like sit on them or have them between your legs. I sometimes have one over my head. I love holding them in my hand. They just feel so magical. They're really lightweight. I could talk about these forever, and I want to maintain time. So what else could I do to increase the power of my connection to source? So we just did that. And the more you do it, the more it's connected. If you want to learn the Hebrew alphabet, the more you write it and speak it, the more you're connected to it, the easier it'll be to recite it from will, forwards and backwards, hanging upside down, hungover, right, and hungry. Whereas it's really hard to learn the Hebrew alphabet or any alphabet that you don't know in that state. So the more you do it, the more you wire those neurons, the more you build those pathways, that familiarity of being, of mind, and the easier it is to find your way back. And this is why I'm a fan of having support, doing fewer things really well, and going for depth, right? If you feel called to breadth, if you feel more of a seeker than a finder, then you're going to just bounce around, and that's fine for a certain period of life. But when you want to make progress, you're only going to make real progress with depth, unless you are the exception to that. But in everything I've seen, the more time you put into a specific thing, the more progress you'll make in that thing. Now, that doesn't mean there's not complementary skills. But if you have a source connection practice that I teach, and a source connection practice that Ken Wilber teaches, and one that the Golden Dawn teaches, and one that Kabbalah teaches, and one that Druidism teaches, and one that Neo-Wicca teaches, and one that esoteric Christianity teaches, then you're going to have to learn new lingo, you're going to have to learn new processes, you're going to start probably at different spaces of development with different timelines, different types of teachers will be available. So you got to just find what you're looking for, and you have to find a path there. And I think we've all heard that the rivers lead to the ocean, and the ocean is source, and the rivers are the paths. And you can go to different rivers. Some might flow upwards, some might have more blockages, some might look smooth but be bumpy later, right? Some might move into each other and out of each other. So I'd say, just like a lot of people I talk to don't really love the idea of having like a partner for the rest of their life, or a career for the rest of their life, until like something super aligned. But even then, it's easier to keep something in a chunk and say, I'm going to commit to myself for a year to have this path, because this path feels really good. It's really aligned. I feel it's very accessible. It resonates with me. I've had results with it. And all the other stuff I want to study, I'm either going to study a year from now or with like 20% time. Where you can study and practice whatever you want, but the core thing that you practice, you do for 80% of your time and effort. And that's just one ratio, but I wouldn't tweak it too much less than that, because I used to bounce around so much. And I made way deeper progress when I just stayed in one area. And I could have, say, launched the Magical Mastermind a year ago and launched a Shopify store selling essential oils and crystals. And I actually tried doing both of those, and they both failed miserably, both because I didn't feel like I could come from the right place for both. I need to shift and clear stuff in myself to serve at the highest integrity, as I feel I am now with this work. And I also felt that if I was doing those things in a Bali retreat and sessions and Instagram and workshops and all these different things, how could I go deeper master one? So I took a break and went all within. And then I'm like, all right, what feels best is to do Facebook workshops like as they feel right. And then after doing 6 in about 2 weeks, I'm like, all right, I know I have the capacity to honor a mastermind and not personally not burn out, but B, like lead a group of people constantly to higher states, because I've done it. And I've done it before in smaller groups offline. When you reach a certain level of depth with the path, because it's validated. So one of the reasons I love teaching and specializing in manifestation, as opposed to Reiki healing or sound healing or other stuff that could be used for manifestation for sure. And experts in your fields, please don't hate. I haven't have a depth of knowledge in those, so I'm sorry to talk about them so casually. I know they're very deep and rich. But I feel like manifestation leads to so many other things and kind of pays for itself in terms of your time. And to me, when a manifestation is successful, that's proof that you're connected with source. It's not a vision, it's not a feeling, it's not a good meditation, it's not anything else. It's, if you're reality, if you're God, prove it. And what level is reasonable, right? Materialize an elephant in the palm of my hand within 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Okay, no elephant, but I do feel some tingles. That's more than last time. So, what's reasonable for you to manifest, you checked in earlier if you followed along. What can you achieve in this one meditation? Or in 4, if you did it that way. And if you find a system, whether it's mine or anybody's, and it says, and I think it's critical that it says, here's a stage of progress, and here's what it looks like when you're there, and here's what your life experience will be, and here's what it'll take to get there, that's a good path to follow. If it's like, do this and you'll find salvation someday, eventually, maybe, where these are the 8 ways you should live, just period, and then some abstract promise, you can't really grasp onto that. And one of the reasons I feel gamification is so effective, even though it's used in not always the most ethical ways by the behavioral scientists who work with ad companies, gamification just affects the part of our psychology connected with extrinsic motivation, which is part of most of our systems. So having these validation markers, these, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do that? Having these things allows you, enables you, provides for you the confirmation that you and source are one more and more often. So hope that's clear, Tom. Do I work with sigils? So great question. I used to, Amory. I like the idea of a visual representation of what I was focusing on, but I found it's too much work. What we did, you raise an awareness, you hold a vision, you zap it with emotion and energy. That's like the super concise version. Just going based on that, you're like, huh? But this is after 2 hours, right? Raise an awareness, have a clear vision of your intention, zap it with emotion and energy. And you could say like ground and integrate are important, but with sigils, you pick a symbol or you create a symbol, then you do it in either like etheric space, which I've done, or physical space in physical reality like this. Tapestry of Isis. Somebody's like, who's that naked lady in your workshop? I'm like, it's not a naked lady, it's the goddess of magic, B. So look at her ankh. Boom. So might be a little bit hard to see, but the ankh, where it's like, here, can I kind of do an ankh with my slap bracelet here? Such a dork. All right, this is a really bad ankh. So In sexual transmutation, the energy moves up and it circulates and it goes back down and it stays within the same circuit. And the activities and behaviors can be mostly the same, but the energy is contained within the system. And that's one meaning of the symbol Ankh. So in sigils, you create or find a symbol, you make sure the meaning correlates, you infuse it with energy and meaning, and then you focus on it for a certain amount of time, and then you destroy it for the systems that I've found to be effective. That's extra work. If you're going to hold the intention and direct energy, why do you need a thing? That being said, Bashar, who I love, also said that what do you need is permission slips. So if it's an anchor for your mind to focus on, which is actually a very, very valuable thing to have, then it is helpful for you. So in other words, if it will help your attention focus, then a sigil is great. You know, if you're trying to envision an ideal life with 25 things in it, first of all, that might be a bit too specific, a bit too complex of a manifestation. When Jim Carrey talks about manifestation, he visualized a $10 million check of acting services rendered. 10 years later, boom, he got $10 million for Dumb and Dumber. And all the factors of becoming an actor and being networked and getting contracts and having movies and having them successful, et cetera, came about from that one specific thing, but that was a vision of a check, right? So if you want to simplify your intention, you can use a visual. I now feel that a sigil depersonalizes the vision. I feel having an image of reality as you'd like it to be is a more literal way of holding it and being within. Now, if you need to manifest something that you have a block in and the visual representation of it triggers you even a little bit, a sigil is a workaround. But I don't like workarounds because if an image of, let's take an example. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about a woman in his workshops who had such bone degradation in her jaw that she was not even a candidate for surgery of bone grafting, like from her own hip. That's kind of crappy. She did Dispenza's workshop. She did his meditation. She was in his group field. Again, everyone, same time, magical mastermind. It's a third of the price of Dispenza. I'm kidding. But it is actually. And at least his live events, which who knows when they'll happen again, hopefully soon. But in her vision, she saw, she was open, she was surrendering in this one. I haven't, that'll be in the next workshop I teach. I wanted to build up to it. And he has all these meditations that are required before you can even join his stuff, which I think is important. So people are at a good level. But she saw a dog's jaw in her mind's eye, and then 2 weeks later, all the bone in her jaw was back. Maybe it was 3 weeks. Her jaw was fine. It regenerated itself. Now, if she used a sigil and made a spell, that's very different from leaving her identity, her space and time, her conceptual limitations, needing to rely on being in the container, right? And it would have overcomplicated things. And it might have even held her back. In going through the why is my jaw the way it is, what do I have to heal that made it happen that way, how much of my throat chakra is involved, et cetera, she healed stuff. And if you work around stuff because a vision bothers you or doesn't feel achievable, you're skipping out on healing. And that's how some manifestation can backfire. There's a lot of old lore that, be careful what you wish for. And that's manifesting stuff you shouldn't manifest because you have something to clear. Now, there's one other thing that I wanted to share based on Tom and Cassandra. I'm going to respond to you, Cassandra, in just a second. I think that's a great comment, but I want to respond to it a little bit. So in terms of connection to source, if what I shared with you is hard and you feel it's hard to be divine or see yourself as that, then find a divine being like Jai Lakshmi. See her abundance as abundance in your magic or spiritual growth. Hello. And work with divinity in that way. I love Lakshmi. She's fabulous. And I also honor if it feels better or right for you to work with Jesus or Allah or Yahweh or Hashem or Diana or Dianus or Apollo or the moon or the flying spaghetti monster or the matrix, whatever word, whatever conception you want to have of the highest level of source that you can conceive of, because source is like nothingness and everythingness. And if you can conceive of that, just focus on that. But if you can't, a divine being is way higher to source than like Earth, for example. You could say Earth is Gaia and she's divine and that's higher to source. But I think if you have that connection, absolutely go with it. But I think the divine beings that have human form, even the ones with a bunch of arms, there's usually statues of just 4 or 6 arms. So it's easier to look at than like What's these 18 arms here? Which one should I look at? Where are they all connected? Where are they coming from? So that's for both you guys. So much love, Anne-Marie, my pleasure. So Cassandra, and anybody who needs to leave at time, go ahead, but I'm going to keep going as long as there's questions for up to another half hour or so. So Cassandra, I've never heard of sigils, but I like the idea of physically manifesting to affect the material. Yeah, you know, you are the God you allow yourself to be. And creating worlds, creating reality, affecting the quantum probabilities of how matter is structured and behaves. Yeah, that's great validation, which is why I love telekinesis. But I don't focus on it in the beginning because it's less practical than manifesting. Cool. So any last questions? We have a lot of comments from Azalio, but it looks like he was messaging me one-on-one. Hello for everybody else. Cool. Well, it looks like our questions are complete. So I'm going to do the usual admin-y housekeeping stuff about future workshops. So in designing this mastermind, because it's very finely designed, I'm going to be creating some material for it over the next couple days. And I know it was a little while since my last workshop in terms of days, and I apologize if you're watching this live. The quarantine can be a bit intense. If you're watching it recorded, hopefully it's long over. And I announced new workshops in my newsletter. I announced them on my Facebook page. I announced them on Eventbrite, and sometimes on Instagram. I kind of got out of the habit of posting there for, I don't want to get into it. However, Facebook has occasionally been like hiding the visibility. Like I had stories that 150 people saw and like 20 people responded to, and then my last two stories, 0 people saw, because I think, again, I overshared, I overpromoted this workshop. And, you know, who knows how Facebook thinks. So I just have to figure out, you know, the best way of doing all that stuff. So really the best way of doing it is see me first on Facebook, or if you are subscribed to my newsletter, which goes out through Magical Golden Age, make sure you create the email filter for the emails to show up in your primary inbox, not the promos tab, so you see stuff. And again, I don't mind like DMs, especially if they're quick and simple. But I am always going to be doing a workshop a week for like the next like 12 months, I feel. So there's always something coming up. And it was Rick. And Rick, I'm so sorry. I said I would get a schedule, and life, it didn't feel right to make that yet because I was still working on a certain curriculum. And I wanted to not just put a schedule up because my mind said, oh, I should do that within a day, do a professional thing. I really wanted to make sure it was the right stuff. So very, very soon, I hope and promise that, I think I will promise that the next workshop announced will have a series of like 12 to 15. And that way, by me promising to you, I got to stay in integrity, and I will. You won't hear about the next one until they're all created, and I don't want it to be too long. So I am going to wrap that up pretty soon. As always, if you want to learn more from me or about me or through me, my first book, Magic is Real, is out on Amazon. It is fun and epic, and it's a powerful, powerful transmission. It was channeled, and all the stuff that comes in through this gives really big shifts. It has cool exercises like how to make a chi ball, and it has a really fun chapter on battle magic, where people are casting spells and fighting, and like it's fantasy, but it's fun, and there's a bit of sci-fi practicality in it too. And then there's a whole chapter in the future of magic, like what could our world be if we had expert magicians regrowing forests, healing people rapidly, building a new Atlantis, building temples of Lakshmi, Thoth, and Aphrodite, amplifying abundance magic and all the topics of love and romance in the ways that our world needs, but in ways that are healthy, transparent, and open sourced, so they can be sustainable, and a lot of people can contribute, so they're representational as well. And I'm very, very happy with it. So thank you again so much. If it feels right to reach out for me or schedule time or join the mastermind, please do. I have a feeling those things might fill up pretty quickly. But either way, I so love you showing up. I love every person who comments, every person who shares, every person who asks a question, everybody who tunes in for a minute and that's all they can take and then they leave. I've seen a bunch of that. That's all okay. And I just want to encourage you to be supportive to the people in your life, whoever they are, wherever they are. Give of yourself, be kind, use your abilities and powers to help and support others, use them to create good and light and love in the world, defend each other in ways that, you know, you would want yourself supported for. You know, every time, but especially now alive, is a time when we really have to look out for each other. And I don't get political in my videos, but that was inspired by something that I saw about a certain group saying there's a right way to take care of everybody, and we want to work together to make sure people are taken care of. And I felt really good about that. I felt really good that they grouped together to push against the resistance. So any darkness you see in the world, any negativity, any cause that should be shifted, I want to support you, and I want you to have the support you need on the social and the relational level. You know, I can provide a lot of the magical level, and I can provide some of the social level, but I just wish for you this healthy second chakra stuff. Okay, thank you. It's been wonderful. If there's anything else you'd like to have covered, please comment what you would like to have covered. I really, really look forward to seeing you in future workshops, and I'm really glad you participated today. Please, if you care about your growth, commit something. I do. My Insta is @SorcererDavid, and let me just type that in both Zoom, and let me go in Facebook here, and I will comment my Insta there as well. And I don't know if it went to YouTube because I'm simulcasting on YouTube. Hopefully it did. All right, everybody, much love. I'm always here for you. Thank you for being here for and with and of and as me. And I wish you a beautiful life and all you wish for yourself.